We have Grandmaster Nodirbek Yakubboev here getting ready for his clash against Alexander Donchenko. It's the clash between Uzbekistan and Germany. And here we are at the quarterfinals of the FIDE World Cup 2025. Yakubboev with the white pieces here. Let's see what he comes up with. Donchenko has had a great event here. Pawn to d4 by Yakubboev. Donchenko has managed to beat Anish Giri here. He's managed to beat Matthias Bluebaum. He also managed to take out Le Quang Liem. And now pawn to c4, he takes on Yakubboev, who's actually in also tremendous form here. And Yakubboev, recently married, seems to be in very, very good form. Pawn to g6, and now he brings his pawn to f3, going for a full-fledged fight with e4 coming in. And Donchenko has to think here, what's the line he wants to play? He plays his pawn to c5, which is considered to be quite an interesting and aggressive line here. Yakubboev pushes his pawn to d5, gaining space in the center. And pawn to d6, opening up the bishop's path from c8. And e4 played here by white, gaining space. So white has this very nice structure with g2, f3, e4, d5, c4. The only thing is that the knight on f3 is not getting its natural square. So Yakubboev plays knight to e2. Very interesting choice. And if you remember this game, Vishy Anand versus Boris Gelfand from their 2012 World Championship match, the same opening was played here. The idea is that you use your knight from g1 to go to c3, because this knight sometimes doesn't get a good square in such structures, and you use your b1 knight to actually go to d2, where it can later on go to the c4 square after the exchange in the center. So knight to c3. And now pawn takes pawn. So e takes d5. And white plays c takes d5, making this very nice pawn chain. It's the Benoni structure that we have here, a6, with the idea of expanding on the queen side. So naturally Yakubboev stops it with a4. Both players seem to be out of their opening prep. They are taking their time. Both have taken around 7 to 8 minutes on the clock. Knight to h5, a slightly not a dubious move, I must say, but slightly weird move played here by Donchenko. It can directly be met with g4, because queen h4, king d2 you can run. But first Yakubboev goes queen e2 here. An interesting move, whereby if queen h4, by the way, bishop d4 play, taking control of this square, because if queen h4, by the way, you can even go g3, takes, and queen f2, pinning here and winning. So with bishop d4, he's stopping these ideas. And look at Yakubboev. He's like saying, I'm anyway going for g4. And Donchenko goes queen h4. Now it's a huge fight. It's a big fight that is brewing up here. You can't block with the queen. King d1, a very important trick is if knight g3, there is queen e1 with a completely crushing position. White wins here. So he goes knight to f6. Maybe knight g7 was also possible here, but he goes knight f6. And now Yakubboev plays king to c2. So what he's essentially doing here is he's trying to improve the position of his king, and he slowly would like to sort of build it up. Knight d7 played by Donchenko, and look at this knight, h5, f6, d7, continuously moving back and forth. Bishop goes to f4, attacking the pawn on d6 square. And now queen to f6, attacking the pawn, bishop here, also putting pressure on this diagonal. You have bishop to e3. offering to trade the bishops here. And now knight to e5. The knight is putting pressure here on the f3 pawn along with the queen, and knight d2 played. You have queen to h4. The queen moves in, and somehow this back and forth doesn't really seem to be great, and bishop f4 played by Yakubboev, h5 by Donchenko. He's trying to hit at this structure, and now a very important move is bishop g3, or else there's trouble with the g4 pawn. So bishop g3 played. Queen comes back to e7. And takes. G takes h5. He plays rook takes on h5. And now pawn to h4 played. Black goes rook a7. Just trying to activate something. I mean, he could have played his knight out or bishop, but the problem is knight d7, you already have f4 and the knight is trapped here. So it's not easy to develop here. Also, the bishop on c8 doesn't have good squares. a5 finally tries to get some breathing space with b5 because he'd already blocked that in as well. A b6 played, rook b7 very quickly played by Donchenko. And now Nodirbek Yakubboev takes on e5. This move comes from the fact that you want to get the c4 square for your knight. Once bishop e5. And now knight to c4. And this knight attacks d6, e5 and also protects the b6 square. Rook takes h4, gaining back one of the pawns here. Yakubboev takes. Queen takes. And now he's going to take the bishop on e5. So he takes on e5, d takes e5. Queen to e3, putting pressure here on the c5 pawn, also on a6 pawn. So rook takes b6 taken here. And the point is, if you want to take queen takes c5, he is going back and defending this. So beautiful move b4, knight d7. Now the thing is, with cb you lose the rook. If rook b4, there's queen c5 with a double attack. So wonderful move, knight d7. And now Yakubboev is going to take on c5 with the pawn, getting two connected pawns here in the center, and it's totally crushing position here. So rook b4, he pushes c6, the knight goes to b6. And now Yakubboev goes bishop e2, simply finishing the development, just making sure everything is well controlled. Queen comes to h2, and now d6, very strong. You have some ideas with knight c4, but then d7 coming in, queen c5 as well. So he goes bishop e6. Have to be slightly careful with rook b2 ideas, because king c1, if you take the rook, there's knight c4. King c1 and it's winning. He goes d7, bishop takes d7. Finally getting rid of those two huge passers does black, but it comes at a cost of losing a piece. Yakubboev takes, knight takes d7, and now just simply chopping this off is good enough. Rook takes a6. Takes, rook takes on a6. Goes king f8. Rook comes to d6, attacking the knight on d7. Black rook jumps back to b7, defending the knight. And now queen to d2, putting even more pressure on d7. He goes knight to c5. And now let's see how he finishes it off. The queen comes into d5, attacking the knight and also the rook on b7. Rook c7. Rook takes on g6, threatening queen d8 check, and queen takes rook. So knight jumps back to e6. Now look at this. The idea is queen takes e2. The knight is pinned. So queen d6, rook e7 is kind of forced because there is no other move. King e8 is met with rook g8, so rook e7. And now rook to g4. Just staying calm and steady here. Nodirbek Yakubboev has played almost a flawless game of chess. f6 played. Donchenko just trying his best to hang in there for as many moves as he can. We're already on move 41. So in comes check. If king f7, there is queen g8 mate. So he goes rook e8. And check. And he's going to lose the rook on e8. Queen takes e8. And Donchenko resigns here. He's just losing the material. So Yakubboev wins the first game, and he's the only winner in the first game of the quarterfinals. Rest of the games ended in draws. So kudos to Nodirbek Yakubboev. He's surely made a strong claim if he wins this match. And if Donchenko doesn't manage to come back in the second classical game, then he will take on the winner of Javokhir Sindarov and Jose Martinez. It could be that we could have two Uzbeki players in the semi-finals, that is Yakubboev versus Sindarov, and that could be a huge boost to Uzbek chess, and it's actually a very good time to be an Uzbek chess fan. I love how the players are analyzing their game here together. Donchenko very curious and just saying that you could play h6 perhaps, or some move. And always nice to see this camaraderie between the players after the game, and looking forward to the second game of this encounter.